All right, I'm going to take a moment for myself, Bruce Feldman. How's the Michigan quarterback situation breaking down? Best you can see right now.
I think it's better than it was a year ago at this time, and I would say this. You have a much deeper receiving core. Now, look, at this time last year, nobody knew Ronnie Bell wasn't going to be able to play most of the season. He's back, but I think they're so much deeper. I talked to your guy, Jim Harbaugh, for a while, a couple of weeks back, and that was one of the first things he talked about was how deep the receiving room is. You know, they have a lot of speed. Obviously, they'll miss Hassan Haskins. I don't think people outside of the Big Ten realize how good he was. But, you know, Corum is fast. Donovan Edwards is dynamic. They have a lot of weapons. They have, you know, Eric All, I think, really established himself last year and really, you know, the tight end. So I think what's interesting to me most about them, having been around their players a little bit at Big Ten Media Days, they have a chip on their shoulder, which is interesting because a year ago, Josh Ross, Aiden Hutchinson, you could feel them talk about, it was like they were disgusted and embarrassed by what happened with Michigan State and certainly, you know, like the way the year played out previously. Mm-hmm. And those guys were real leaders, and I think they established a real standard there. And you talk to, you know, DJ Turner and Mozzie Smith about what they like. I think and they didn't use this word, but this is how I kind of, you know, felt like it sounded like the way they were talking about it. It was like people thought it was flukish that they beat Ohio State last year and then they won the Big Ten. And maybe some of that has to do with the way they got mauled by Georgia in the playoff. Right. But, you know, there's definite talent there. And I think if they play with the kind of the passion that I heard from some of these guys about, like, you think that was a fluke, you know, like that was a one-off. And if they can take that, because I think they've always had enough athletes to be competitive. Now, look, I think Ohio State has more, but, you know, Jim Harbaugh had a really physical team that was really good on both lines last year, right? And I'm interested, like, I'm more of a believer in them now than I was probably a month ago before hearing how these guys, how it came out, how they felt like coming out of last year, they took it.
So I don't know if you saw my snippet of my hosting gig in Canton, Ohio.
Yeah, I don't think that went over big.
It did not in the room. It didn't go over well in the room. So how large of a check do you think I wrote? I mean, is it an uncashable check? Is it a too large a check? Is it an appropriate check? How large of a check do you think I wrote for myself?
I think it depends on how close you are to certain Buckeyes. Let's put it that way. All I know is, like, I've sat in the green room with, like, I don't know, is Charles Woodson the greatest Wolverine of them all? You know, like, and you see the frustration, the angst when it's like guys can't, you know, whether it's against Michigan State, where it's like the guy's playing his position. I'm not expecting them to be him, right? But, like, you know, you're calling out a team that is loaded right now.
Well, I'm not calling them out. I'm pointing out what happened last year with the hopes of following it up in a way that would be surprising. So you think that the divide is too large to bridge?
I would, let's say this. I would be, if you told me that Ohio State was a 10-point favorite right now, I'd be like, oof, they're going to cover that. I mean, I just think, you know, CJ Stroud and those guys, like, they gave credit to Oregon and Michigan for beating them, but I think they kind of felt like, you know, we were not at our best, right? And look, credit to the teams that either outcoached them or outplayed them on those days. But I just think I could be way off on Ohio State. Like, if you ask me right now, who do I think is going to win the national title, I would actually say Ohio State more than Alabama.